Hey, what's going on, people? Thanks for tuning in. Joel here, Flatlander. Wanted to do a quick video about the shadow from the eclipse. We know that the shadow was 70 miles in diameter, but the supposed diameter of the moon is over 2,000 miles. So there's been a lot of people talking about whether or not the shadow can be smaller than the object casting it. And I've seen some videos of people claiming that it is possible, but they're doing things like they have like a lens cap and they have it sitting in a room with several fluorescent lights on, and then they move it up and there's multiple lighting sources coming in at angles from that object, and they're creating a smaller shadow because the light's actually hitting where the object would block it off if it was just from one light source. So you have to have one light source, and it has to be on the same plane as the object where the shadow is going to be casting. So that piece of cardboard down there represents the Earth, and then the flashlight, of course, is the sun, and this ball is the moon. And as you can see from way back here, the shadow is much bigger than the ball. That's not how it would be in the heliocentric model. Obviously, it's much closer to Earth, so I'll bring it over here closer and come back over here, and you can see that the shadow is not any smaller than the ball. It can't possibly get any smaller in diameter than the ball itself. Even if you move it all the way up here, it can't possibly be any smaller. You see, this diameter here of the shadow is the same diameter of the ball here, and that's the smallest that it can get. The farther you get back, the bigger that shadow gets. And in our system, you see the sun would be 93 million miles away, and the moon would be over here closer to Earth. And in order for that shadow to be smaller, these rays would have to come in here and bend around and then light up this area. And that's not possible. The light rays would just keep coming and pass right by, and that diameter would stay either the same size of the moon, or it would be bigger because it would be farther back. And obviously I can't get 93 million miles away with my flashlight, but this is just showing you that that shadow with one light source on the same plane cannot possibly be any smaller. And if you were in the center of the eclipse, that would mean that the moon, in a heliocentric model, if you were in the center, that would mean that the moon, the moon, and the sun were all on the same plane. And that would mean that there couldn't be any light hitting it at any sort of angle like that. So if you use an experiment that actually represents how it would be, then you can't get a smaller shadow. If I turn on another light and there was light coming in from another angle, then it's going to affect this shadow. But with only one light source coming from back here, this is what you get. There isn't any other way. So if you see these other people making videos with all their lights on in their room, and they have like a globe set up with like something and they're moving it around all funny, that's not a representation of how it could be. I mean, just because you can play around with the lights in your room and get it to produce a smaller shadow doesn't mean that's actually what can happen in reality. We're only dealing with one light source, just like that flashlight, and this is what you would get. And I'll just show you one more time what happens when you move it back. Put it about, well, a little more than halfway, but you just see again that that shadow down there is much bigger than the ball. And it just keeps getting bigger the further back you move it. So a lot of these experiments are showing that the farther you move something back, the bigger that shadow gets, or the smaller the shadow gets. But that's only true with multiple lighting sources, with light coming in at other angles. Because what they're doing is they've got it all the way up against the object like that, with multiple lighting sources coming in, and then once they start moving away, they say, oh look, that shadow is getting smaller because the light is coming in from different angles and it's no longer blocking that. And then all you see is just like a little shadow of it from whatever that light source that was creating it from directly behind, but there's light hitting it at these angles. So that's not a legitimate experiment. So don't listen to any of those guys. This is what you would have. You'd have the sun, one more time, 93 million miles away over there like that. And then the moon and we'll just put it somewhere out here just for, you know, it would be closer to the earth. But this diameter can't be any smaller than the diameter of the ball, as you can see. And I mean, the ball, you can see here how you have this width, so it might look like it's smaller, but it's actually not. If you actually get up there and look at it, it's the same exact diameter. But that's what we're dealing with. So just wanted to make that quick video. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time, you guys enjoy your time on the flat earth and be nice to each other.